Good afternoon, I'm Kevin Graham and welcome to the Wednesday ACSOM Bulletin. As usual on a Wednesday, I'm joined by Colin Watt. Colin, how are you getting on?
Not too bad, Kev. How's yourself?
Doing away. It's getting to that point. I mean, it was a bit windy over the last couple of days with Storm Barra, but you're down the coast, so you would have been more hit with it with me than me being right next to the Clyde.
I've got to be honest, it's not been too bad. I think we managed to escape the worst of it. A couple of slates coming off our roofs, but no, I've seen it a lot worse up in North East. So anybody that's up in North East, thoughts are with you. I hear there's power out up there, so if you're not watching this live, we understand why.
Is that no power out for the last storm that we had? Never mind this one.
Probably, but the combination of both probably isn't helping much, is it?
It brings me on to Storm Barra, So I'm going to ask you a question. It's one I think you know that you are going to know the answer to. Which so. Celtic player was nicknamed the Wee Barra?
Oh, jeez. I know this as well. My mind's just gone completely blank.
He played for Morton.
It wasn't Andy Ritchie, was it?
No, it wasn't. The player named the Wee Barra was Bobby Collins.
Bobby Collins, that's
Bobby
it.
Collins, who played 220 times and scored 81 goals for the Mighty Hoops between 1949 and 1958.
Do you know what? My uncle will be cursing me. My uncle's the reason that I got into Celtic. He was the one that took me to the games and all that, and he's a massive historian, and he'll be cursing my name right now watching this, so I'm sorry.
He left Celtic and he joined Everton, then on to Leeds United, Bury. Then he came back up to play for Morton for a wee while, and he was a scout for Leeds United. Actually, when he came back up here, I'm going to bring this comment up. Paddy Lavery, love the top, Kev. This top will be on sale on ACSOM.net. Hopefully today, but definitely by the end of the week. And also my book will be on sale, hopefully today, but definitely by the end of the week.
Nice wee cheap plug here, Kev.
Hey, I need to get the plug in. It's coming to Christmas. Go to ACSOM.net and get all your Christmas prezzies absolutely sorted. Brian's not here today. The third wheel of the tricycle's not actually here today because
we've got him in the warehouse making the rest of those jumpers up just in time. So if they're not ready, we can blame Brian for why they're not on ACSOM.net.
But seemingly it's only a Christmas party, But is it a Christmas party? Are we allowed to have Christmas parties?
8th of December, it's a bit early, isn't it?
Is there cheese, wine and social distancing at this Christmas party?
Oh, wow.
Is Boris Johnson going to say it is a Christmas party or no? Who actually knows? It's been a wee while since I've seen you, Colin, last week. What's been your highlight of the last week?
I've got to admit, my highlight of the last week was, and I'm very sorry to the friend that I'm going to be calling out here, but waking up on Sunday morning to a text saying that there was a spare ticket for the game on Sunday. My pal wasn't feeling too great, so I got the chance to go through to Tannadice and see the game. I wasn't expecting that when I woke up on Sunday morning, so 2-hour drive through to Dundee, but the performance was more than worth it. I've got to say, Kev, that's definitely, I'd say, up there with the performances of the season so far. We were just a joy to watch at times.
It was a fantastic performance, and it was utterly dominant. It was a dominant performance, and I mean, obviously, a record at Tannadice is actually quite good if you look over the last couple of decades. But to go up there and people says that they at Celtic Park they were unlucky not to come away with 3 points. Look, Albion Aieti missed a couple of sitters that day, but I thought enough and flattered them on Sunday. Flattered them quite a bit.
That's not what Tam Coates had to say.
Was it not? No. What was Mr. Coates saying?
Tam Coates came out after the game saying he thought that the 3-0 scoreline flattered Celtic, which I don't understand what game he was watching, because 11 shots on target. I thought Siegrist was outstanding at times in the Dundee United net, and there was very few opportunities for Dundee United to get a goal. So I don't know, maybe he was watching something on another channel, but it was definitely not the game getting played at Tannadice.
I must admit, I was, and I'm going to come to this, I was quite surprised when the co-commentator actually says that Dundee United were coming back into the game in the second half. And I was like, what game are you actually watching? It was really quite...
Do you know what, Kev? I've noticed this over the last couple of games, the Hearts game especially. See the last 10, 15 minutes, we do tend to kind of bear off and we do invite a wee bit more pressure on. But see, when you're playing 3 games a week and you're going at the intensity that Celtic's going at the minute, there is going to be spells in the game where it's going to be like that. But then you look at the kind of the substitutions that were made when Liam Scales came on. I thought he had a really good impact. It wasn't just the fact that he was in to sort of solidify the defence in that aspect, but he also offered something going forward. When you look at his goal, and I know we'll get to it, he doesn't stop moving from the minute that he gets the ball. He gets the ball, plays the pass and moves on and goes forward. So for me, I mean, that's what you want to see from Celtic players, is not this whole, I've done my job, I'll just stay here and wait and see if the pass comes back to us. It was the fact that he made himself in that position to get on the end of the ball, and he finished it beautifully.
Aye. Sean F on via YouTube flattered Celtic with a wee smiley emoji for those listening on the podcast later on. Turnbull missed how many chances in the box that day? Turnbull actually scored his hardest chance.
Aye.
For me anyway. And it was a fantastic finish.
That was a great finish. It was reminded me a lot of, do you remember Larsson's goal against Rangers in the cup final where he lobbed it over, I think it was
semi-final.
Was it Kloss? The semi-final, lobbed it over Kloss.
That's actually in my book. That's actually in my book.
Oh, there we go. Here we go again. Another plug for that book.
The League Cup semi-final. When he flicks it across.
He flicks it over and taps it in. Turnbull's got the awareness to know that that ball's not going to go in the back of the net, because you've got Charlie Mulgrew coming in to sort of get himself in between that. So Turnbull keeps going with it and he gets the tap in there. It was a lovely finish.
Definitely. Robert Hyland, Turnbull and Kyogo should have both scored a hat-trick. I can't argue with that. I think the amount of chances that they missed, especially I was disappointed for Scales when he put that great ball across in the last couple of minutes, and Kyogo actually missed the tap in. So let's talk about goals then. We'll kind of jump the running order before we talk about the tagline. So the running order, this right. So we'll jump to the bit which I've called rip roaring free scoring. We may as well knock the utter daylights out of that saying. Johan Cruyff Collins says that football was a simple game, but playing football simply is the hardest thing in the world. We've scored some goals this season that have been absolutely fantastic, and they've been made to look simple. And they've been made to look simple, and they've been made to look glorious on the eye. They've been absolutely brilliant to watch. No, I'm not just talking about Tom Rogic on Sunday there, which was a brilliant individual goal. I'm talking about team goals where there's been 4 or 5 players actually involved. I'm thinking like Abada in Budapest, Jota last week in Germany, Kyogo at Easter Road. Even though it was a tap-in, the actual teamwork to get to that point is fantastic. Jota in Aberdeen to put us 2-1 up. What's been your favourite Celtic goal this season under Ange?
There's been a few, isn't there? I'm trying to think. If you look for individual goals, you're going to struggle to beat that one from Sunday by Rogic. The kind of ability to take on 3 or 4 players before slotting it past the goalkeeper is outstanding. In terms of a team goal, I think you're looking... You could possibly be looking at Jota's goal. Was it against Hearts the other week where the ball gets lifted over the top to him? We've got possession for about 5 minutes beforehand and we keep it going and keep it going and keep it going. Again, Hibs away, there was some fantastic goals. It's a difficult one, Kev. There's not one that absolutely stands out to say that is goal of the season for us so far. I like the comment from Paddy Laverty there. Cal Max bum goal for me. That's for everybody's. But look, as you say, we're playing some really, really good football just now. There's not been one where we've kind of scored for about 30 yards out that's been an absolute screamer of a hit. They've all been well-worked Celtic goals, whether it be tap-ins or a goal like Rogic. So it is a vast contrast to last season where it was a bit of passing going nowhere. We weren't creating a lot of chances. Now we're creating them, and it's difficult to kind of sit back and pick out one from all of those.
I mean, Ryan Friedman comes in, Jota's pass to Kyogo against Ferencváros.
That was outstanding as well, yeah.
Another outstanding. I probably put more weight on the ones in Europe, and I says this on the post-match against Leverkusen in Germany. The second goal that we scored in Germany is goals I've seen us lose for decades against European sides. Mm-hmm. And I've often wondered, they make it look so simple, they break with such speed. I'm going, why can we not do that? And that second goal in Leverkusen, and actually Abada's in Budapest as well, was the first time like that. They are pure European goals that I'm loving the fact that we are now scoring.
You've got the one from the qualifier as well against Alkmaar that gets put across for Kyogo to put in at the back post. We've been scoring quite a few of those goals. It's a joy to watch Celtic play football. Another team goal that I've totally forgot about was the Kyogo's second goal against Dundee. The movement from Jota and Kyogo for that was outstanding as well. It's just, there's been so many. You can see everybody in the comment section mentioning them. There's been so
ones
many.
Coming, but there's ones that we forgot. Colin Watt chip to Turnbull for that goal. Tim Bully comes in. Sorry, that was Danielle. Tim Bully comes in, second goal in Leverkusen. It started with Hart. I mentioned last week about getting the ball up the park within 10 seconds. That's Ralph Rangnick. That's what he says. The ball, when you win the ball back, you should get a shot off within 10 seconds. The second goal in Leverkusen absolutely done that.
I saw that on Sunday as well. There was the miss from Turnbull. That's only 4 passes. It comes from the goalkeeper out, quick out to the wing. The ball comes across before Dundee United get the chance to settle, and Turnbull should have done a lot better with it. He goes on to make up for it, but it does show that we can open them up, especially Scales' goal as well. Scales' goal's only 2 or 3 passes. When Scales picks it up, it goes into Beaton. Beaton launches it over the top to Abada. The ball comes across, and there's Scales to knock it in. Sometimes we're potentially overplaying. We're trying to find too many quick 1-2 passes. There's ways to open up teams, and Celtic are finding that. When you look at it, the goal that we've kind of not mentioned either is the pass from Jota to Kyogo against Ferencváros at home. That the way to split open a defence was unbelievable. Before
we talk about the comment that I brought up there, last week we called for more vertical passes, and exactly what you're pointing out. There's less passes now. It's actually creating chances against Hearts and Dundee United, and long may that continue. It was something that we called for last week on the Bulletin.
Yeah, we were kind of criticised by a couple of people in the comment section last week for offering suggestions of how we could get Kyogo Furuhashi in and involved in the play. And then it seemed as though there was a press conference with Ange the next day or the day after, and he said that the attackers have got to find ways to get the ball to Kyogo. Now, I've noticed over the last 2 games that Kyogo's got far more involved. The only thing is he still needs to start taking some of the chances. That header he had at the weekend earlier on in the season, you'd have probably seen him score that. He is getting in the right positions, and I think now that you see Rogic back in the team, the intelligent play is increasing. Sometimes, and I don't mean to be kind of disparaging to the midfielders that we've got, they don't have the ability that Tom Rogic has to find a pass or the close ball control that he's got. When you look at that goal he scored, the quick 1-2 left-right touch to get himself into that position, to have enough time to take an extra touch so that he's got the space to put that into the bottom corner. It's some things that David Turnbull and even Callum McGregor don't have in their game. So taking Rogic out that team, it does take that out of the side, and when he's back in, you notice the difference right away.
Is there any other player in Scotland has actually got that in their locker, Colin?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I really don't. I think Big Tam's a one-off in Scottish football, and he's been a one-off that I've seen at Celtic for the way that he can actually do stuff, the close control that he's actually got, but the fact that he's a big guy. And he's been utterly fantastic. Les Watts does actually make a point, and it's not as going to be negative. I get frustrated that we didn't score more. See against Dundee United when we're only 1-0 up. Against Hearts it's more Dundee United, and we're missing chances. You always get a wee bit nervous, and I think that's just where we are in the progress of this team. We're still nervous when we're 1-0 up.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that goes back to the horror stories of last season. when you saw the kind of defending that we did last season. What was it? Felt as if every free kick and every cross was going in the back of our own net. So,
Definitely.
I mean, we've still got a bit of PTSD from that. So it's understandable for the support to still try and go over it. But the defence has been a lot more solid this season. I think we've conceded the least amount of goals in the league, which is a massive improvement.
Which never gets spoke about enough. Which never gets mentioned when people with a narrative, we've got a terrible defence. Well, there's a stat that blows that out the water.
Absolutely, and some players that were getting stick earlier on in the season, like Kyle Starfelt, I thought he had a fantastic game on Sunday. I think he was given man of the match. There's a lot to be said for Celtic's defence that people would say it's not 100% there yet. See if it's not 100% there yet, considering that we've not conceded that many goals so far, what's it going to be like when we do get clicking?
Definitely. Michael Quinn, Turnbull versus Motherwell, 30 yards. That was a fantastic... That was on your birthday, that goal, eh?
It was on my birthday.
That was your birthday present from David Turnbull.
It's not the only one he scored like that this season as well. He scored one in the Cup, didn't he?
He did that.
At Parkhead. Can't remember who we were playing. It was in the Premier Sports Cup, early rounds. Raith Rovers.
Raith Rovers. Aye, it was Raith Rovers. I'll bring up Jerry Sayers here. Kyogo 1-0 v Hearts as the goal of the season, just because it sickened so many of the bitter brigade. That's a good segue into our tagline today, Colin, which is, when will Celtic challenge the treatment of Kyogo Furuhashi? So let's have a wee look at this. I had to write this down, but just in case, because there's been so many incidents since we've been last on. So since we've been last on, we've got that goal that Jerry speaks about there, the marginal goal versus Hearts, which I think called a recall of Parliament to be discussed because us pesky Tims can't be getting decisions. That night it triggered Chris Boyd into some sort of meltdown, and I'll tell you one thing, Sky Sports coverage is so bad, I didn't even watch their coverage on an illegal stream. Then we've got Crawford Allen coming out speaking about the decision for some bizarre reason that he decided to get wheeled out and give his 10 pence worth when he's never been wheeled out at any other point during this season, and a season where we list on a weekly basis on ACSOM and also on the State of Scottish Football a list of comedic errors by the referees. Sunday, you've got the missed red card against David Turnbull, an absolutely horrific challenge by Callum Butcher. Then yesterday, you've got Leslie Deans coming out asking for the match last week to get replayed. Now, I do know this morning that Celtic have answered that via certain leaks in the papers. You've then also got articles appearing by Mark Guidi, who is still the chief sports writer in the Sunday Mail, as well as being linked part of the Open Goal team, and Keith Hackett, who is a columnist in the Ibrox Noise, which got mainstream media coverage where they basically called Kyogo a cheat. So you've got all this, and you can even go as far back, calling it the tickets for the Cup final, which was a massive thing for days and days. There's been loads of negative stories about Celtic Football Club over the last fortnight. For me, it's squirrel behaviour. They're shouting, look over there, there's a squirrel, trying to deflect for the questions that need to be asked about our games, the questions that need to be asked about those who officiate and run our football club. It's open season on Celtic, Colin. Is it about time Celtic come out and take a stand?
You know what Celtic's answer to this is? It was mentioned at the AGM. They do their work behind the scenes as so to, what would they say, respect the values of the club. Now that for me is a lot of nonsense, because we're getting it from all barrels right now. We're getting it from unintelligent football pundits. We're getting it from ex-Premier League referees with a bias. We're getting it from managers who had a decision go against them on the Wednesday, had one go for them on the Sunday and was very quiet about it. We're getting it from everywhere at the minute, and the treatment towards the club just now, for the club not to say anything, there's a balance to be struck. You don't want them to come out and respond to absolutely every single thing, but you do want them to come out and kind of draw a line under everything that's happening and give the fans the backing and give the team the backing that they deserve. This is I don't understand this, Kevin. I really don't. It's almost as if, as you say, it's the whole, there's a squirrel over there, what's happening?
Aye.
For me, I feel as if it's just anything to try and rock the bandwagon that's happening at Celtic just now. And people might say, oh, well, you're still 4 points behind. To be only 4 points behind, considering the start of the season that we had and the mess that we were last season, I think everybody's well ahead of their expectations of where we should be right now. Celtic are a...
Sorry, there's also a story appeared in some paper that I'm not going to name. It says Celtic are in a worse position this year than they were last year. Let's put Ange Ball underneath the microscope. How much false negativity do you actually need to get drummed up round about us?
You can tell there's a big game coming up soon, can't you? You can tell there's a big game in a couple of weeks' time. There's things kind of put out. Aye, absolutely. That's a replay of the game for my birthday. I'm hoping for the same result. No, there's a lot of big games coming up for Celtic, but the biggest one's obviously on January 2nd, and there's a lot of negativity being put out there. The thing with Kyogo, right? Let's get into that, because Kyogo is getting some rough treatment from the Scottish defenders or the Scottish backline, right? And I'm not just saying it's a Scottish person in particular, I just mean defenders in Scottish football. Is he going down at times a bit too easily for my liking? Yes, he is. But is there contact when he is getting pulled down? Most of the time there is. Some of the time you're looking at it going, come on, you've got to be a bit better than that. But I tell you what, see, for these incidents that are happening where there is contact, where there is something happening to him now, he's getting absolutely nothing because of this narrative that's been drummed up against him. And that is a problem. There can't be a bias shown towards players. Yes, if you look at it, you've got to look at the incident as it happens. You can't just go on, well, he dived 3 weeks ago, so he must be diving now. It can't be looked at that. And that is the problem with Scottish football just now. Referees don't look at it as a game-by-game, instant-by-instant basis. They go on and they say, oh, well, that guy dived a couple of weeks ago, he's known for it, so he's probably dived this time.
I don't think it's diving. I think there's a bit of exaggeration in the contact that gets made, but then that happens all over the world in the football. I've never seen a guy like Kyogo in all my years watching football get fouled off the ball so much.
Aye.
When the player's raging somewhere else and he's making a run in the middle, you see defenders flinging elbows at him. You see defenders hanging on to him. You see defenders just trying to stop his movement because his movement utterly scares them. But look, he's probably paying a price for the Livingston game, which the slap on the head or whatever it is. But the John Souttar one, which has been caught on TV cameras, was assault. And everybody was posting that on social media to go, I see this is a cheat. So the fact that there's contact, the fact that the guy bruises his midriff proves that he's actually cheating. Where's your sensibility in that?
This is what I'm referring to, but Kev, this is what I'm saying. Even if there is contact on him, no matter what kind of contact that it is, they're looking for it to be more. Because they're saying, well, he's obviously dived, he's obviously simulated it, he's obviously he's exaggerating it. Now, there's a good point in the comments there. See, when you look at some of these penalties or incidents that aren't given on the park, people say he's gone down too soft or he should have went down there. Why is it a case that he should have went down? Why are we bringing that into the game? Why do you need to go down for a foul to have taken place?
A free kick's a free kick, a foul's a foul. An assault's an assault. So
if David Turnbull had went off injured on Sunday, is that instantly a red card, or is it just because he gets back up that it's only a yellow? The tackles is bad no matter which way he takes it or how bad the injury to him is. There's definitely a bit of an agenda on this, and as I said, I do think that Kyogo does need to kind of be a bit stronger in some of these instances and try and shake a bit of it off, because I think it might have been impacting his game over the last couple of weeks. But what you do have to say in his defence is you don't see him complain once. He gets back up and gets on with it.
I often wonder, see the amount of times he goes across to opposition players and tries to help them up. I'm wondering if he's got a medical PhD and he wants to be a doctor, because he's always across with the physios talking away. But let's get back serious. I agree with you, Colin, maybe about the exaggeration. And I'm calling it exaggeration, but that's nothing else that I haven't seen with loads of players in Scotland every week. If you watch the Sports Scene highlights, there's a narrative here. There's a narrative getting driven about Kyogo Furuhashi and Celtic. Paradise 63, I had this up earlier. Can we replay the first Hearts game this season? We were robbed. We were robbed of an offside goal in that game as well. But I can't remember Crawford Allen coming out and actually moaning about that. The next one, Cathal Rocks 29. If this is coming up, it's nothing but panic from the enemies of Celtic. They're beginning to worry. Michael 89 brings up this comment, and this is what I'm talking about, the narrative. So-called experts who have got all the intelligence to a pickled eyeball, using phrases like clearly offside, miles offside, when it isn't anything. When that is so far from the fact of the matter, it's unbelievable. That's what Celtic need to call out. Celtic need to call out this blatant lie, this blatant myth peddling that's been allowed to go unchecked, Colin.
And they weren't slow to do it, 3 years ago, when there was that interview with Alfredo Morelos that was poorly translated by Sky Sports, where he came out and had a go at Celtic, or was alleged to have had a go at Celtic, and it got taken down within, a couple of hours, and then retranslated properly. Mm-hmm. So Celtic have got a history of coming out, and if they think there's been an injustice served, they'll come out and say it. I saw John Paul Taylor's tweet yesterday, and it's interesting that it came out for him and not from the club, about how all these games would need to be rescheduled because of previous injustices that Celtic have had by refereeing decisions. Like, there's jokes to be made about it all, but there is a serious aspect to it, that the standard of refereeing in Scottish football is such that there's some serious injuries going to happen to players this season because things get just let away with. You always get told your first foul's a free one. Doesn't matter how bad it is. You look at some of the decisions in the game against Hearts, some of the tackles that were going in there, and the first yellow card was 60, 70 minutes into the game. It felt as if Bobby Madden had left his cards in the dressing room. Again, on Sunday against Dundee United, very little yellow cards, a lot of fouls, and a lot of very bad fouls. That one from Butcher, everybody's seen it. Now he's going to get a retrospective ban. Where's the punishment for the referee in that instance? There's no punishment for that referee. You'll get away with it because, you never saw the angle there. You never quite got it. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
You'll probably get the cup final. David
Martindale came out and says on Sunday, where Livingston were denied a clear goal scoring opportunity because he was ruled to be offside. I think the boy was Bruce Anderson going through in goal. John Souttar takes him out in the box, and it would have been a penalty if he wasn't offside. Looking back at the clips, it was 2 yards onside. Now, David Martindale came out after the game and says that Robbie Neilson told him that he was onside because they're watching it. But then he comes out to say, at the end of the day, it's my job that's on the line. It's not the linesman. And that's the state of Scottish refereeing, is it doesn't matter how bad they get. We've got the state that there's only so many referees to go round, so they're not going to be punished because if he goes, there's nobody else to replace him.
Do you think VAR will help? VAR's coming. VAR is going to come. Now, when you see it a year down the line in the English Premier League, they've ironed out a lot of the mistakes that were made last season. I'm actually for VAR now. I wasn't at the beginning, but I think the game's moving far too quick, and our referees are far too poor to keep up with the pace of the game, and they need VAR.
VAR will make a slight difference to football, but you've got to understand the basis of when VAR will be used, what it'll be used to kind of look at, whether it be offsides, contentious red cards, goals, etc. But why are we jumping to that right away? Where is professional referees in Scotland? We still have semi-professional referees. We've got a guy who's doing refereeing as his third job. He's meant to be an MSP, an MP, and refereeing's his third job. How can you pay attention to the standard of and the quality that you're trying to put out there to be in charge running the line, obviously, of a Scottish Premiership game when in the back of your mind you're like, right, I've got a budget meeting next tomorrow, I've got to travel down to London to do this, I've got to do X, Y and Z.
I've got to go to a Christmas party at number 10.
Exactly. So it wasn't a Christmas party, it was just cheese and wine, Kevin. Don't get us into trouble. Please do not get us into trouble.
Okay.
But when you look at it, how can people be allowed to do that? These guys are making £1,000 to £1,500 a game to referee Scottish football and then go and work a 9 to 5 on a Monday. We've got to look at bringing in professional referees first. They have to be professional. Now, you say, what difference will that make? They've got more time to actually learn and understand the running of the game. They can go and watch other games. They can watch where people are making mistakes so that they can learn from it. Aye, all right, everything comes down to the heat of the moment. But how can we bring the standard of our own league up when our referees are part-time? It's pathetic for me.
Patrick Banterin says VAR is needed. Yeah, right. Professional referees would probably make a difference. Also, professional pundits would probably make a difference if they would go and learn the rules. I'm going to bring up the last comment on this. Strange Love the Doctor. Kyogo only goes down when someone is manhandling him physically. If they stop cheating and try to out-football him, there wouldn't be an issue. I agree with that. That's something that I agree with. I can only look at this from a Celtic point of view, Colin, and the fact that the haven't says nothing. Celtic have got previous for ignoring things, which they maybe deem bad for business. You have a look at the stripping titles, the EBT. They says at the AGM the other week they're no interested in financial fair play. They have no interest in that whatsoever. And basically, the 5-way agreement, which they claim never have seen, but everybody else in the world's seen it. And they did keep that alive. The old firm's good for business. They'll do anything to keep the old firm alive. I'm going to ask you a question, and this is a hypothetical question. This is not based on any facts or anything whatsoever. If the game is corrupt, Colin, then we're up to our necks in it as well, eh?
Most likely, Kev. Most likely.
Because your silence actually points in that direction, eh?
I would say so, and it's not really an avenue you want to kind of look down at the minute. I think we've all got our views on the agenda that's driven by the board at Celtic Football Club, and you see the movement. All you have to do is take a look at the ongoing potential appointment of Bernard Higgins at Celtic Football Club to ask whether Celtic is in the same mindset as the fans and what is actually going on behind the scenes. The protest that will continue to go on. And there's been some fantastic videos released this week by Fans Against Criminalisation on this.
Brilliant videos.
Absolutely brilliant videos. And the fact that the board haven't come out and said anything at all on this, every time they're asked about it, it's sort of brushed aside. From what I understand, that man will be appointed on the 5th of January, and it'll be a knife to the heart of Celtic supporters and Scottish football supporters throughout the country. It's unacceptable, and it just shows, it's another example, Kev, of the difference between what we see our football club to be and what our board see our football club to be.
It is, Colin, it is. I think the silence says everything. I really do think the silence that says everything. Before we move on regarding that, I would recommend that everybody watches Bad Sport on Netflix, especially episode 3 of Bad Sport on Netflix, which is about former Juve director Luciano Moggi and how he influenced referees during one season. It is a fantastic watch and also a very, very eye-opening watch of what could be actually happening underneath your nose in leagues all over Europe. Let's have a look. Sorry, Colin.
I was going to say, Kev, speaking about the influence on referees all over Europe, did you see the Der Klassiker at the weekend? Bayern Munich Leverkusen, and Jude Bellingham after the game. Jude Bellingham coming out and saying, of course the referee's corrupt, he's been jailed for 6 months for it before, we knew what we were coming up against. Can you imagine something like that happening in the Scottish football? As you said, it blew Chris Sutton out of the water. That's top tier. That is top tier.
He's been fined €85,000 by the club, and the German Football Federation are investigating his comments as well. But then another night there, Colin, you had Craig Levine talking about Mike McCurry.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was quickly shut down by Kenny McIntyre, whose allegiances are well known, and Tom English, who likes rugby. So let's move on, right? It looks like we're going to get at least 2 guys for Japan. Mm-hmm. It looks like Ryo Atate and Dazan Maeda have been done, and Yosuke Ideguchi may be coming as well. Ange Postecoglou's been round the block in Scotland now. He knows the standard of Scottish football, and he obviously thinks 2 of them, or maybe 3 of them, can do a shift in Scottish football. I actually think with the way that he's never answered the question about the standard between the J-League and the Scottish game, I actually think he thinks the standard in the J-League's far better in Scotland. I may be swithering on that, but I do think that. What do you think, Colin?
Well, when we were on the fan media conference with him, he was asked the question of whether he thought a Scottish player could go over and have as much success in Japan as Kyogo has had coming from Japan to Scotland. And he took his time to answer it. I'd recommend everybody goes and watches it. It was a fantastic media conference, I've got to say. It was difficult how he answered it. He says he believed they could, but there's never been an example to show otherwise. He says the standard of Scottish football is fairly decent, but he is a massive advocate of the J-League. I just don't see the kind of standard of Scottish footballers going over there that would make a difference. There's few and far between that can actually go abroad and do it. Aaron Hickey's probably the best example so far of going over to Bologna and then obviously having his injury and coming back from it. Ryan Gould as well. But there isn't very many Scottish footballers that can go over there and do a job, so it's a difficult one to sort of compare. Looking at the 2 players he's looking to bring in, I am very, very excited for the signing of Dazan Maeda if he does come. The clips that you can see of him, they are outstanding. For me, he just looks like a speed merchant who is going to cause a lot of trouble in Scottish football. Can
we get it out there already? He's a diving cheat. Let's get that narrative out there anyway before he signs, because if he starts running riot, that's going to be the narrative, judging by the last couple of weeks anyway.
I think I tell you what, I don't think any of these players, whether it be Hatate, Maeda, or even Kyogo, I don't think it will let them affect their game too much. I know I said earlier on, I think it is affecting Kyogo's game, but that's more on the park where he's getting this treatment. I don't think anything that's said off the park has got any sort of impact on him. In fact, it was there was some really nice pictures posted by Kyogo last night from his first kind of trips in and around Scotland. I think it was about Glasgow Cathedral.
It was, yes.
And you can see he's loving his time here in Scotland.
So, going back to what you says about Postecoglou there, I think Postecoglou was cagey because he reckons a lot of the Scottish players don't have the technical ability to play in Japan. They've maybe got the heart and the work rate, but the players in Japan have got more technical ability. I think that's what he was angling at.
See, when you look at the clips of Maeda, right, there's a lot of what Ange wants to play that you can see already being played by his team. It's the high press, getting in there, getting ahead of teams, kind of breaking through them, playing through the middle of teams. Maeda is extremely, extremely quick. He will be the FIFA player's absolute dream when he comes over here because his speed stats will be in the high 90s. He is very, very quick, but he scores a range of different goals. He scored with his head, he scored from the penalty spot, right-footed, left-footed, and he links up with the play very well. I think if you look at the way that Ange is trying to play the front three at the moment, they are meant to be quite fluid so that if there is an injury or someone isn't having a good game, he can switch players around. Maeda to come in there would be a great option. I think you'll see him. I think the front three, if he does come in, will be Jota, Kyogo and Maeda.
It will be. Do you think we're putting all our eggs in the J-League basket and we're just gambling on them settling like Kyogo? Or
No,
we're hoping that Kyogo's influence is going to help Hatate and Maeda settle?
No, I think what you've got here is the J League, obviously, it being the other side of the world, and the kind of the window opening because the league's shut. That'll be the business we need to get done early doors. That'll be the ones that you'll not see someone coming in for the J League after, say, the 20th of January, because they'll probably have the isolation period. They'll have time to sort of settle into the club. I think you'll see a lot of these deals done potentially before the game against Rangers, maybe just after it. And then once he's got his targets that he wants from Japan, he'll move on to targets that are closer to home. Ones maybe from down south, from the Scottish League, or even leagues across Europe. I just think that the kind of period that will take to get someone like Hatate and Maeda in, that's why we're focusing on them first.
Right. Peter Calorero, I'm sorry if I've butchered your name. I Callum butchered your name there, Peter, so I'll apologise about that. As an Aussie, the standard of the J-League is higher than the SPL. Well, I'm going to bow to the man who knows the J-League better than me. Paradise 63 comes back in. If you think Kyogo gets called wrongly offside, wait to see what happens when Maeda shows up. Donny Boy 67, Maeda has a beautiful head of skin and I love him already.
Kev, I need to ask this, right, because I see it in the comments section every single time that we come on air. Have you had a hair transplant?
No.
Right, we've knocked that one out the park, guys. He's just growing his hair out, right? No more questions on whether he's had a hair transplant.
What actually happened was, when we first started the Bulletin, I can't believe I'm going to explain my haircut live on air to over 700 people.
You're not the first ACSOM contributor to have to do that, don't worry.
Well, what it was during lockdown, I just used to shave my head myself because there was no hairdressers open. That's all it was. And now there's hairdressers open. I go to my nice wee barber down a wee half mile down the road there, and he cuts my hair. And I've got hair. I have got hair. I'm not bald. So we'll pass that on.
Juddy Talk's coming in to say that he needs a hair transplant, so he's probably a bit disappointed you can't get him any tips.
Ask some of the commenters, but because every one of them kept on asking if I'd went to Turkey for a hair transplant. I didn't know about any hair transplants in Turkey. So surely somebody will help you out there. I'm going to go back to the comments on the next one, on the next part of the bulletin that we're going to speak to. John Suter. John Suter was mentioned quite a lot yesterday in the comments. According to reports, both us and Rangers are credited with an interest. There's also 9 championship clubs credited with an interest. We can sign them on a pre-contract now, seemingly. Should it be an option, Colin?
I think it's one that would be a risk. I say a risk-free investment, a lower risk investment. Obviously, he's someone who broke through that Dundee United team when he was very young. What was he, 15, 16 when he made it into the first team? He's had a lot of injury issues. He's someone who has definitely turned his career around. I mean, he took that step to go into the Championship with Hearts to then make the move up and show that he's still got it. He's only, 24? 25?
He's actually 25.
25, so he's still relatively young. You could still get a good 5-6 years out of him. We do need defensive options because I don't know if Christopher Julian's ever going to be back playing for Celtic, to be perfectly honest. I have serious doubts about this guy, Kev. We've been told for a while now that we're taking this easy with him, but we're coming up for a year since he last put on the Celtic jersey, and I just don't know. I mean, he's good for the retail team because he's out there doing all the posters for the new ranges that are coming out in the Superstore. But I have no idea if he's going to be fit again. We get told it would be the end of October, then the end of November. Now it looks as if it's going to be January before we see him. We can't really take a risk on having someone who we don't know if they're ever going to be fully fit again. If you've got someone that can come in and do a job, even if it is only maybe playing 20 games a season, we didn't think that Anthony Ralston was going to get the amount of games that he got. We didn't think that Stephen Welsh would get the games that he's got. we've got to come in and give the guys a chance. So if it's a free, or I'd imagine you have to pay a smaller fee to get them in January, I'd say it's probably worth the punt. The other one that I did see linked, though, I don't know if you saw this, Kev, Leandro Fuchs from Dundee United. He said that his agents had contact from both Rangers and Celtic as well. Sometimes I think when you hear stuff like that, it's just a player that knows their contract's coming up and they've just put the Celtic and Rangers out there to try and maybe attract a higher calibre team.
Look, I've only seen Fuchs twice this season. That was both against us. The first game he tried to main James McCarthy, and in the second game Tom Rogic absolutely bossed him all over the field. I know Alan Morrison really, really likes him, so Alan's going to need to convince me of why we should sign the guy Fuchs from Dundee United. He hasn't impressed me whatsoever. But again, I've only seen him on 2 outings. I'm only basing that on 2 outings. I'm going to bring up a comment by Brown Warrior here, which is going to lead us nicely onto the next section, which is called Case for the Defence. So Brown Warrior actually asks, 10 million for Cameron Carter-Vickers or John Souttar. I wonder what Desmond will do. Colin, what is your fee for Cameron Carter-Vickers? If Spurs walked up 1st of January and went, how much are you willing to pay for Cameron Carter-Vickers, what answer would you give them?
I'll put it this way, it's not £10 million. I feel as if that figure's just been plucked out of the air. There was numerous reports at the time that it was a fee between £2.5 and £3 million. And there was a comment from Danielle in the chat earlier, which I will try and find it, who said there was a Spurs insider who spoke to a Spurs podcast basically saying that it was £2.5 to £3 million. It wasn't anywhere near that. If there was, say, no buyout clause in his loan deal, considering his age and considering the money that we could possibly pay, I would be surprised if we paid somewhere in the region of £6 to £7 million for him. I mean, I don't think we'll have to pay that much, but if that was the kind of going rate, I wouldn't be surprised, and I think he's absolutely worth that.
I think Tottenham are at it. I think Daniel Levy was just trying to ramp up the price, try to turn the player's head. The player's quite happy here. I mean, you have a look at Spurs, they've got more dead wood than Adobe's fire pit. And I think 4 or 5 million is absolutely tops that we'll pay for Cameron Carter-Vickers. Is he one of your first choices? Is he one of your first choices at centre-half? Because let's have a look at it. Starfelt's come back in the last couple of games and done well. But so Stephen Welsh. Stephen Welsh has not put a foot wrong, and for me, he's extinguished some of the doubts that he can contribute. If Postecoglou is going to go with Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt, can Stephen Welsh feel hard done by? And also, who's better, John Souttar or Stephen Welsh? Because watching that game last Thursday, I don't think there's much difference between the two of them.
That's a very good question, Kev, and I'll just bring that point up that I was mentioning earlier from Danielle about the fee. I think at the minute you're starting to, if everyone's fit, is Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt. I do think that's your two at the moment. I think Stephen Welsh could potentially feel a bit hard done by, but he is still very young into his career. And the fact that he's going to be learning from guys like Starfelt, like Cameron Carter-Vickers in training, pushing them along, getting the game time, which, let's be honest, see until maybe 2 years ago, I think it was roughly about 2 years ago now, that he was recalled from Morton, back in the January transfer window just before the lockdown. He was playing right back for a Morton side that were close to relegation. There was no way that he was going to get into that Celtic side. It was only through a number of injuries that he actually came back and was recalled for the game against Hamilton. So it's difficult to say that the position he's in now is not 10 times better than the position he was in 2 years ago. And he will only come onto a game. Welsh is the under-21 Scotland captain at the minute?
Yes.
So he's got a lot of learning to do. Obviously, you've got Souttar, who's now part of the national team. He's been around. He's got that experience. He has got the injury concerns. Look, see if you had 5 centre-halves at the club and it was Cameron Carter-Vickers, Starfelt, Julian, Welsh and Suter, that's a far better position than what you're in just now. We can't afford to keep just going with 3 centre-halves or 4 centre-halves. The amount of games and the injuries that we pick up, we've got to have cover in those positions and see if the cover's as good as what that is. Now, Welsh has still got a lot of learning to do. Suter's got his injuries. Julian's missing. But when they're playing and they're playing well at the level they can get to push these figures on so that Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfelt knows we can't go out there and just have a bang average game or a bad game because there's somebody that wants to take that jersey off us. It's competition for places, Kevin. It's something we've not had at centre-half for a number of years.
Definitely, and you mentioned Julian earlier on. I fear that he will only kick another serious ball for us. I really do. I don't know what's going on there. There's a lot of love in the comments for big CCV. Robert Highland, CCV strolls again, Kev. Pat says not in the plans at Spurs. That's true. I mean, how many loan spells has he had? Has he had?
I think this is his 6th loan spell.
6th loan spell. Michael McDonald, Ange could put that money to good use elsewhere. No more than 3 million for CCV. I think Danielle comes back in that in the No Spurs podcasters actually says that will be the fee. And Finn Fogel, you're not going to get class players coming. CCV at 3 million is good enough for Scottish football. I think he's been all right in Europe this season as well.
I think he's been good, and I tell you what's very impressive about Cameron Carter-Vickers. Although he's not the quickest, his intelligence is second to none. See the positions that he gets himself into. It means when he's coming up against a quick striker, if he's in that position, he tends to win the ball 9 times out of 10. He reads the pass so well. There was the game against Hibs at Easter Road. I think Martin Boyle played Kevin Nisbet through, and Cameron Carter-Vickers was out of position at the time, but he knew that Nisbet had to take a touch to kind of move to the right, and in that sense, he slid himself into the right position that meant that Nisbet couldn't get the shot away at goal. He won the ball back and we went out on the break. His intelligence at the back is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and I think that both him and Starfelt complement each other very, very well. For me, they're the star pairing at the minute. Starfelt has brushed off a lot of the concerns that people had with him. The only thing that I would ask Starfelt to do, and I'm begging him because my heart drops every time he does it, just win the ball in the air. Don't let the ball drop. It petrifies me every time he lets the ball drop, but he's definitely vastly improved since the start of the season, and it's good to see him coming into his role.
Kieran Clare, Suter is a no-brainer, defo better in Welsh. Roddy McDonald, we need to give Welsh a long run. Michael the Boy,
10 mile.
For me, we're talking about a defence now, which has had Cameron Carter-Vickers, Welsh, Near Beaton, and Starfelt in it, and Dane Murray at the start of the season. Let's not forget Dane, that have got the best defensive record in the league, and we still do not know who our best partnership is. David Kelly, contributor. Suter is miles better in Welsh, hence why he plays for Scotland. He has played 200 and old games already, despite them being similar ages. Suter is better than Starfelt from what I've seen. Sign him.
I think that's a bit harsh. Has Suter not got 4 years on?
He's got 4 years, 25. But then again, on the other side of the scale, Sean F, I'd have Welsh over Suter any day. Welsh is an under-21 international captain as well, and he will go into the senior squad in the future. He's also played a number of games in Europe. Right, let's me and you make a decision. Welsh or Suter, one or the other. I'm going Stephen Welsh.
I'll go with better the devil you know. I'll stick with Welsh, although I would still sign Suter if he was an option.
As a fourth choice centre-back, if Christopher Jullien is never seen to darken our door again.
Well, let's be honest, Jullien, if he was to come in, would come in as fifth choice at the minute. You can't just go on his past games. He's got to try and prove himself again. He's got to earn his chance to get back into that side. So if you're going on that, he would come in as fourth choice at the minute, fifth if you sign someone else.
Nah, you're right there. You are right there because there is definitely three centre halves in front of him. Definitely who have actually who've actually proven this season. We'll move on to Betis, since we're now into the last 5 minutes. We'll have a wee preview to tomorrow night. For me, whatever Postecoglou does tomorrow night is going to have folk moaning. It doesn't matter. He's in a no-win situation here. He'll be wrong. It's just the nature of the game. We're already in the Europa Conference League. We can't finish second in the Europa League group. We've got so many big games in December. It doesn't matter what he does. The nature of this game means he is going to get abuse. Doesn't matter what team that he's going to put out there. He wants to get measured against the best in Europe. He says that after Leverkusen. What I loved after Leverkusen, Colin, was there wasn't the usual we can't compete against these teams from the big leagues. It was how can we compete against the big teams from the big leagues, and he wants to play at their level, and he wants to get measured against the best. I think if he goes in with that mindset, we're going to see a strong team tomorrow night, but with all 5 subs being used at certain times during the game for 60 minutes onwards.
I think regardless, we're going to see a strong team tomorrow night, and the reason we're going to see a strong team is not for the want of trying. I think it's just because of circumstances that we find ourselves in at the minute. I don't think Betis will have a strong team, to be perfectly honest. Betis are in a really good position in the Liga. They've already qualified. The game is a bit of a dead rubber. As much as you hate to see a Celtic game being a dead rubber, there isn't a lot to play for. I think what you will see, though, is some players that you thought might get a rest, they're playing out of necessity because there isn't other players there. See, when I look at it, who's your right back? It's got to be Juranovic because we don't have another option.
We don't have another one.
Cameron Carter-Vickers is suspended for this game. So it looks as if Starfelt will probably have to play. And then probably play alongside Beaton. At left back, I would give Greg Taylor a game because I think he's coming back into it. He had a good game on Sunday, and it's important to get the minutes in his legs, although there is an argument to say that Scales could come in and play that game as well because of his performance when he came off the bench. I think the biggest impact in this game will be our midfield and our forward line. I think the defence you've got to sort of pick because of the players that we've got. But up front, we might see some changes. The one I would really like to see, and I don't know whether it will happen or not, I'd like to see Owen Moffat in this game somewhere on Thursday night. He is part of the squad to play because he's under the B squad registration rules for UEFA. I think that considering the injuries we've got, I don't want to kind of risk guys like Forrest, Abada and Johnson. I'd like to see... in fact, I'd probably give Johnson in the game, but I'd like to see Owen Moffat try and get a wee run out.
Roddy McDonald, the team could include Bain, Montgomery, Welsh, McCarthy, Soro, Ayeti and Abada.
I think it's too early for Welsh, is it not?
I think it is. I'm looking at... I think there's a lack of options for us to go completely fringe. Mm-hmm. I do think there's a lack of options for exactly what you say there. I think Joe Hart will be in goals.
Yeah,
I can't see Bain coming in.
I don't know. I think he might give Bain the gloves. I think he might. I've seen a bit of faith being placed in Scott Bain. The fact that he's got this contract, he is the one that's stuck around the squad. Barkas has been disappearing, but he has been the one that's been working with I was about to say Kevin Hart, Joe Hart. Totally different person. I do think Scott Bain could potentially be the one that would come in. I wouldn't think we'd need to rest Joe Hart, but I can't see it doing any kind of disarm. And I think Bain will come in trying to impress everybody. Okay,
so we'll go for Bain and goals. I mean, you've made a very convincing case while Scott Bain may actually start. You've also made a convincing case for Juranovic at right back because we've basically got nobody else. Mm-hmm. In the middle, Starfelt's got to play because it's too early for Stephen Welsh and Cameron Carter-Vickers is suspended. So we are looking at Beaton at centre half. Left back, there's probably a decision, but I think that decision will come down to whether Greg Taylor's had a reaction to the 60 minutes that he's had at the weekend and he's got maybe another 60 minutes in his legs, or Liam Scales. If Greg Taylor needs another 60 minutes, for me, he's getting those 60 minutes, and Scales is coming on for the last half hour.
The likelihood is he's going to be a first choice left back through to at least the January transfer window. So if he does need to get the minutes in his legs, I definitely think he would be the one who would come in. I know there's a shout for Scales to play centre half as well, which is another potential option, considering we do need to rest some of the midfield. So could Scales play alongside Starfelt and Taylor at left back? That's a good option, that.
My midfield, out of the midfield three, I think McCarthy's getting a game. I think McCarthy's sitting in that sixth position. I think Tom Rogic is going to get a game as well, just to actually keep his momentum up. So then you've got Callum McGregor and Turnbull, or another, probably maybe Sorrow could come in. Sorrow's the same as McCarthy. If McCarthy's playing, Sorrow's no playing. But Callum McGregor or David Turnbull will play, because we've got no other options in that middle of the park. That's
the struggle, Kevin. That's where I'm looking at potentially Beaton stepping up and playing midfield. And
but
then
we've got nobody else to play centre half unless we throw in a Dane Murray or move Scales to centre half.
Yeah, that's the kind of options there, and a nice stat being brought up there by producer Paul. Over £21,335 raised for St Mary's already, and I know there's still a charity auction ongoing on eBay, and they're still taking donations. So keep digging deep, especially at this time of year. Let's try and help the parishes out. In the midfield, Kev, it's a difficult one. The only thing is you've not got an attacking option to come on the midfield.
No.
It's all defensive options. So it's like Sorrow, McCarthy, and even Beaton, if that's the three there. That's three holding midfielders.
I know.
It's very difficult. So I can see, I would definitely be trying to rest Callum McGregor, absolutely. The one player out of the three that absolutely, for me, I feel needs the rest is David Turnbull.
Definitely.
I feel as if he is kind of burning himself out a wee bit. But there's nobody to come in there. What I would like to see, though, is some options maybe on the bench of younger people. And one player that stood out for Celtic this season in the B team has been Rudy Vata's son, Rocco, who has got, I think, 8 goals and so many assists for the B team this season. Again, only 15. It's a lot of pressure to put on someone. But even having him on the bench to maybe play 15, 20 minutes at the end of the game, it's a great experience for that the young lad, and maybe it'll encourage him to continue his career at Celtic. I look at guys like Liam Morrison, like Barry Hepburn, who all left, that went to Bayern Munich, guys that went down south. There was times where we could have probably given these guys 15, 20 minutes just to encourage them to stay at the club, and they're not there. So we've got to use these opportunities when we get them.
I think Turnbull needs a rest. I really do think Turnbull needs a rest, and it'll be interesting to see what Postecoglou does in that area. As you say, we might see changes further on as the game goes on, to bringing in these young boys. But I can't see the young boys actually starting up front. I think Aietti's going to start.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey Johnson's going to start as well, and I think Abada will start as well. Another option for the midfield is Adam Montgomery. Montgomery could play in the middle of the park, or he could play up front as well. He could play in one of the front threes as well.
Yeah, probably playing in the front three there. That is his natural position. That is where he's came from. Left back is a position that he's developed into, but he is a natural left-footed forward, so he could play in that side. And you could maybe see Johnson on the right with Aieti through the middle. I would like to see Moffat involved tomorrow, because he's absolutely flying in the Lowland League at the minute with the B team. I think he's got over a dozen goals, and he offers something a wee bit different, whether it be coming off the bench or whether it be starting. Again, I just think it's an encouragement to these young lads to say, look, if you stick around at Celtic, you're going to get more of these nights. You're going to get more opportunities. We are acknowledging the fact that you are working, and you're working week in, week out, and this is your reward, is that you come here. Because you look at it, guys, I mean, we totally forgot about guys like Uragide, Liam Shaw, who's another potential option in the midfield.
They didn't even come into my thinking anymore, Colin.
So
they don't.
There is a potential that you could maybe have these guys in there too.
CFC 67 better see Kyogo. That's the only reason my son's going to the game. Ange has got loads of options to make, well, loads of choices to make, and I don't think whatever he does, I don't think everybody's going to be happy. But
I just want to clear this one up, Kev. Someone asking, are these guys actually in our Europa squad? You will actually be surprised to see the people that are in our Europa squad. We register everybody under the age of 20 or 21, I think, because you can do it, and there's no limits on who you can register. If you go down and see some of the players that have got squad numbers, they're 15, 16-year-olds, so there's a lot of players Celtic can play tomorrow night.
Well, I'm back for the game tomorrow night. I'm going to be hosting the game to let Paul go. So I'll discuss the team when it actually comes out. Lads, keep on donating. As Paul says, we've raised over £21,000. The auction is now live. The link is below this video. Colin, thanks very much for joining me on a Wednesday, unlike Brian, who's away on his Christmas night out.
No, it was just cheese and wine, and he's following all the regulations, Kevin. Okay. No COVID rules were broken.
That's good. Hopefully that is the case, and we're not seeing dodgy videos of him in the next couple of weeks. Thanks to everybody for your comments, and thanks to everybody who's joined in, who's tuned in, who's listened, either live or on catch-up. You make it all worthwhile. Hail, hail, keep it Celtic. Thanks very much.